Welcome back to the CityChurch podcast. At CityChurch, we want to see people encounter God and become the light of Christ. Our mission is to help people know God, find freedom, discover their purpose, and make a difference. At CityChurch, we gather together, grow in community, and go to all the world. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the message.
Welcome to Worthy of the Call, our CityChurch Charlotte podcast that helps you to walk with Jesus and help others too. We are well into our podcast series called Bigger Than You Think, and it's based on the book of Ruth. Today's episode is Faithful in the Small Things, where we will discuss seeing significance in small acts of faithfulness. Good morning, Mark. The small acts of faithfulness really do matter, don't they?
That's so powerful, Steve. I've seen that in my life. We've seen it in so many people's lives. We look at the scriptures and we see it in the scriptures. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how we underestimate the value of small little steps. Even small acts of obedience, small acts of kindness, they go a long way. It's like a domino effect. It's a small little step. I remember back in the day, it was famous. I grew up in South Africa, but Neil Armstrong's just his statement still echoes into even our time today. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And sometimes it's those small little steps that we think are insignificant, but they're actually giant leaps.
What does is there a hidden power in these small things?
Yeah, I would say that's what we underestimate. It's like I think it's how God designed us. It's like he's got this old saying that Jesus says, when you're faithful with a little, I'll trust you with much. It's like almost like we sometimes look at small little acts of obedience, small acts, and we think they're insignificant, but I do believe that there's hidden power in there. It's like a seed or an atom. It might be very, very small, but it has great potential. And so I think that's where the hidden power lies.
So is being faithful in mundane acts, is that like building muscle memory or building a lifestyle or a little of both?
Oh, well, that's great, because I think that I like how you say that. It's like sometimes we underestimate just the daily grind or the mundane, And I just recently ran the Charlotte Marathon, and on the day I had to keep on reminding myself that I've put in the miles over the last 6 months. I woke up early, I ran the miles, I put in the little, some days I only ran for 15 minutes. That was part of my training program. And I would think, how's 15 minutes going to make a difference on a 26.2 mile run? How does that make a difference? But it is the constant consistency. Ask tennis players, ask professional golfers, ask people that are at high level athletes, ask the Michael Jordans of our day, the LeBron Jameses and those guys, ask them what makes the difference. They'll tell you it's not the fancy, it's not the big, it's the consistent, it's the hours and hours, it's the day in and day out of doing the mundane, building that kind of default setting, building those default settings in our lives. And that's why even our daily times with God, spending daily just spending time in prayer, spending time in reading the scriptures. I read the scriptures daily, and sometimes I wonder, like, Lord, I don't even remember what I just read. And God's like, no, it's not about you. Sometimes I feel like if I can just read the whole Bible in one sitting, I'd be like amazing. But the truth is, I can only take so much. My best way to explain this, Steve, would be brushing your teeth. I despise brushing my teeth. I force myself every day to brush my teeth. But I believe it's good for you. And so when I was very young, I thought maybe I could just brush my teeth like really long, like one day a week. Like maybe I should just do like a 30-minute toothbrush, because 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night. If you add that all up times 7, it's 4 times 7, 28 minutes a week. If I just did 30 minutes once off, then I don't have to do it again. And I realize it doesn't quite work that way. You just got to do the little bits, and they all add up.
Well, that's true. And when I was a child, my parents would touch my toothbrush to see if it was wet, because they knew I was trying to fool them on that.
I love it.
So what does Ruth teach us about God's faithfulness?
Well, I think that's the beauty of this whole book, Steve. It just shows us that these kind of like small acts of loyalty, like we spoke about a bit earlier, small acts of just faithfulness, of service, of saying yes when it's easier to say no, It speaks about this, how redemption works, how in the midst of loss and obscurity and in the midst of disappointment and discouragement, redemption steps in. And it's that reality. I've spoken about this before, but 23 of the 85 verses, which is literally, it's more than 25% of the book, speaks about this redeeming reality of Christ, the redemption of God. And so I think what I see with Ruth was she didn't quite see the big outcome. She did not quite see it. And that's the thing that we do, is the reason why we undermine or kind of like why we don't see the bigness of our small little acts of faithfulness or the little bits. The reason why we struggle is because I don't think we are able to catch a glimpse of the bigness of where this leads to. And so Ruth could have no idea that her little steps, those little steps would unlock greatness in her life. She had no idea about that. And I think that's why this book is so powerful. That is, God is always working behind the scenes, even when we can't see it. He's so faithful. He paints on a tapestry. He paints on a canvas that's far bigger than what our eyes can see, and that's why I believe it's bigger than you think.
Well, why do we undervalue small things? Small acts of faithfulness.
I mean, the reason I'm going to be naughty right now, but I think we think that the mundane is just not sexy.
Yeah.
This is not impressive. Like we watch the TikTok reels and the Instagram posts, and we think to ourselves, I mean, we just kind of see people's highlights. So we see the 5% of people, we see the Disney holiday, and we see the cruise in the Caribbean, and we see just the people's highlights, like I just ran this marathon and people kind of see my highlights, but they're not seeing the 6 months of waking up at dark, putting on a beanie and, gloves to try and just make it in the cold. It's those 5% of our lives are these highlights, these extraordinary moments. 95% of our lives, Steve, is just the mundane. It's just serving, it's packing the dishwasher, taking out the trash, showing up for work. It's having the meals. It's praying the prayers when we don't even feel like it always. It's just showing up to serve. It's in those small little moments. It's making the meals. It's encouraging a friend. It's caring for someone, showing kindness at the Harris Teeter. It's all these small little moments, and they add up. We sometimes think that our lives are made up of the 5%, but really most of our lives are lived in the 95, the mundane, the day-to-day.
And within that 95%, there are so many blessings that we have, and we really can never take for granted these blessings. And so faithfulness is an effort on our part, but it's gratitude as well.
Right. And then, like you say, learning how to recognize God's blessings in the midst of the mundane is so powerful.
So what, we were talking last Sunday, or you talked last Sunday about being in the market for favor.
Right.
What does that mean?
And that's huge, because that's what happens. It's in the midst of the mundane, like you just said, looking for the blessings of God, looking for what God is busy doing. I think we can sometimes in the mundane be very distracted by some of the same old boring strokes, and so it makes me think of my one friend that was a professional tennis player, and he said he would literally go for hours every day with a coach and just do these same old boring strokes, do the backhand, do the forehand, and it was just the same old boring strokes, and he couldn't see the power in it until later on. When the pressure's on, it was like what he experienced in those spaces was actually paying off dividends. It was bearing fruit. And so I think being in the market for favor, if you talk about being in the market for favor, I really think we should do a whole episode on this, because it's so powerful that actually sometimes when you're looking for favor, you're able to recognize favor. But if you're not looking for it, it's hard to see it. If you're not expecting it, it's hard to see it. And so I believe that divine appointments are often hidden in the daily assignments of life. So God's got these divine appointments, and if we can just be faithful in the kind of mundane daily assignments, we find these beautiful moments of God.
But expecting favor isn't about greed or selfishness, really. It's about a healthy relationship with God, isn't it?
That's so good. Hey, 100%, Steve. I love that.
So God uses ordinary moments for eternal purposes. What does that mean?
That's so good. See, I think it's like you think it's a coincidence that Ruth connects with Naomi. You think it's a coincidence that Naomi decides to go back to Bethlehem, the house of bread. You think it's a coincidence that Ruth ends up, serving in a field, Boaz's field, that is related to Naomi. You think it's all these little things are coincidences. It's actually far bigger than what we realize. She might be thinking that it means nothing, but it is pretty divine. And I think back of my life and think of some of the relationships I've built and some of the connections that I made and some of the friendships and even some of the opportunities. It's amazing how all those little things sometimes often add up. And so it's not a coincidence. It means that God is involved in those ordinary moments and that God uses even ordinary moments for eternal purposes. I want to say this, is that nothing just happens, Steve. I do believe in the providence of God. I believe in God's involvement in our lives, even beyond our understanding. And so I think we should say, Lord, show us how our little acts of kindness can have a ripple effect into other people's redemption stories. Just like Naomi and Ruth had these kind of little acts of kindness happening among one another also, and then they see this ripple effect. And I don't want to spoil it, but we're going to get to an episode where we're going to talk about how Ruth's life and Naomi's life actually had a ripple not only in their generation, but in generations to come. I know so many people that grandfathers and great-grandfathers prayed prayers and sacrificed and laid down their lives and just showed up for work. And because they were faithful, my friends are now benefiting from them generations later. And I think sometimes we think to ourselves, it's just what we can see. But God is so much bigger, and He's inviting us into His big plan. So,
well, in the book of Ruth, there is faithfulness not just on Ruth's part, but on Naomi's part,
right,
and on Boaz's part, particularly as we will see in future chapters. No spoiler alert, but again, there's faithfulness permeates that entire book in every sort of way, and you see how faithfulness breeds faithfulness.
That's right. And actually, that's a beautiful thing. It's like you're partnering with God. You're positioning yourself in a way to say, Lord, I actually want to engage with your faithfulness. Empower me to be faithful so that I can encounter your faithfulness as well.
So what are some questions that people can ask themselves about their faithfulness and being faithful in the small things?
I think one of the questions you can ask yourself is like, what small things am I dismissing sometimes in my life? Sometimes I had an opportunity last night. My two boys were at home. The two, Marie and Almanae each had life groups to go to. And so I had the two boys with me, and I was like, hey, man, maybe we can just take a 30-minute time and we can have a nice meal together. And so it was a small little moment, but it was probably the highlight of my week because I had this time with my boys, And so I want to ask, I think we should ask ourselves, Lord, I don't want to, what are the small things that I have been dismissing, and how can I embrace them and celebrate them? And then I also think that another good question to ask is, especially when we talk about faithful and looking for favor and engaging with the bigness of God, even in our small acts of life, is to ask God, show me where quiet faithfulness can really make a difference. Where can I be faithful in a quiet and a real way, even in the mundane?
Well, that'll wrap it up here for today, and we'll leave you with the fact that many circumstances have arisen from being faithful in small matters, in the day-to-day events, tasks, and commitments where we have a choice to live it faithfully. Be sure and join us next time for the next episode, because I think we are going to dig a little deeper into being in the market for favor.
That's right. I'm excited about that one.
That'll be a good one. Thanks for listening to our City Church Charlotte podcast. Remember to stay worthy and stay faithful in the small things.
Amen.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Please join us for our in-person or online celebrations at 10:30 a.m. every Sunday. City Church Charlotte is located in the Plaza Midwood neighborhood of Charlotte, North Carolina. To learn more about us, visit citychurchcharlotte.org or follow us on Facebook or YouTube. City Church Charlotte, where you're invited to encounter God and become the light of Christ.